There's nothing quite as thirst-quenching as a sip at a water fountain after playing in the park. The modern drinking fountain was invented in the early 1900s as a result of health and sanitation concerns. Today, it's a safe source of water. It waits to serve no matter what the weather, and at the touch of a button, you can drink your fill of refreshing water. Essentially unchanged for decades, it is the ever-dependable drinking fountain. A worker begins by coating the concrete molds with a release agent. The molds are made of fiberglass and metal. He makes sure the coating is thorough so that the molds will be easier to pull apart later on. With a cloth, he also coats the rubberized cap of the mold. The cap will eventually become the top of the fountain. After he applies the coating, the worker assembles the inset portion of the mold. He then puts the fountain frame, made of galvanized steel rods, into place. He assembles the two sides of the mold, with the fountain frame enclosed within. Using nuts and bolts, he ensures the mold is nice and tight to avoid seam lines in the concrete. He now inverts the assembled mold on top of the cap, again making sure all the pieces of the mold are as snug as possible. Using wooden spacers, the worker makes sure the frame inside is precisely centered. He slips in the core of the mold, which will create the void needed for mounting hardware. This wooden cover will keep the concrete out. A mixing machine prepares the concrete aggregate mix. A computer controls the portions of sand, rocks, pebbles, and water used in this recipe. Once the employee is satisfied with the consistency of the mixture, he directs it into a wheelbarrow. As the worker pours concrete into the mold, the mixture oozes evenly into the available space. He completely fills it in a matter of minutes. He uses a trowel to smooth the edges. 2 to 3 hours later, workers carefully pull the core from the mold. Once the cement has cured overnight, workers lift the top of the mold off and peel away its cap, revealing the top of a brand new drinking fountain. With a rubber mallet, the worker separates the sides of the mold from the concrete fountain. The fountain pedestal is still a little rough around the edges, so he gives it a high-pressure water wash. The spray gradually removes the superficial layer of concrete, revealing the textured concrete aggregate mix underneath. The concrete aggregate becomes a sturdy material with sand, rocks, and pebbles, not just on its surface, but all the way through. The aggregate mix is durable, with no rust or peeling paint. It's aesthetically versatile and comes in a variety of colors. A worker now assembles the plumbing. He places 2 washers on this lead-free brass fitting and applies a thread sealant. He holds the bubbler in place on the stainless steel bowl and attaches a fitting underneath. He applies more thread sealant to the elbow fitting and, after putting it in place, makes sure it's carefully aligned. He then inserts a stainless steel drain, followed by a washer and nut to hold it in place. He attaches a mounting bracket to hold the bowl assembly to the frame inside the concrete fountain. A worker now fits the bowl assembly into the top of the fountain pedestal. The mounting bracket holds firmly to ridges in the concrete frame. A worker attaches the button assembly, which holds both the button and the valve controlling water flow. He attaches the elbow fitting to polypropylene tubing and attaches the button plate to the fountain pedestal. A slot in the pedestal prevents the bubbler from being twisted or turned. All that's needed now is a thirsty customer.